Tell us about how digital and analytics can transform manufacturing sales and service.
Well, and before we start with how digital and analytics, I want to preface this. I don't want to talk about digital transformation because it's really all about your data speaking to you. And the reason why I chose manufacturing, sales, and service is that's a big focus within the med device industry that myself and Tim, who you previously met earlier, his team is focused on in med device, technology companies, industrial and manufacturing companies, is the manufacturing entity of it, the sales and the service, and really getting your data to speak to you. And not, when people talk about digital transformation, they're talking most of the time everything. They want to boil the ocean. They don't want to look at a small little piece of it. And they typically, companies that want to do digital transformation become a digital hammer looking for a nail. And when you're a hammer, everything's a nail.
Mm-hmm.
So little bit about us, why we exist. Connected insights, driven experiences. Our focus is data to insights to action. Our values are all around ROI driven business outcomes. We're headquartered in Atlanta, and we've got 15 centers of excellence around the globe. And we actually are also a minority business. We actually won Supplier of the Year in 2019, which was the last in-person event for the National Minority Supplier Development Council. And then here's a couple of our other awards.
How many, this is private, so you don't have to share, but can you give us a sense of how big in terms of sales and employees your company is?
So sales, we don't talk about. We've got probably roughly 85 clients.
Okay.
Somewhere right around there.
Is it safe to say you do more than 50, 100 million?
That's safe to say right around there.
Okay.
And we have 2,500 employees roughly.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. That's why we're a minority business, not a small business minority.
Okay. Are you familiar with a company called ServiceNow?
We are.
Would you consider them a competitor?
To a certain extent, it's in some aspects, yes. In other aspects, no. I've actually taken business away from them. I haven't lost any business, but it's because they had a managed service that they had to stand up in order to execute. I just came in with the data analytics and fed to the existing customer experience team.
I'm going to share my screen for just a moment.
Yeah.
Personal friends know that Beth gave me permission to trade again this year. It's not gone that well. We don't need to talk about it at length. Anyhow, one of the services that I swear by is Investors Business Daily. This is a premium product that they have called Leaderboard. And ServiceNow is one of the companies that they consider to be a long-term leader. And you can see that it's, well, gone up tenfold in the last 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
I recently watched a video from their CEO talking about how, well, I'll leave it to you, but basically it was saying how digital transformation, which is kind of heretofore been a buzzword for me, really is a major trend that in the next 10 years, everything that was ever paper-based just simply has to move.
It does. It does, but the problem is, and I'll go ahead and I'll go straight in before we even go to any other slides. I got on the phone, this is like 9 months, a year ago, and we're now engaged with this company. I spoke to this Fortune 50 company, been around for years. And I and I got on the phone with their chief transformation officer. And a friend of mine worked there, so I had some insight. And she said, what makes you any different than BCG or McKinsey? And I said, that's funny that you asked that. And you
Not to
probably
mention
asked
that that's pretty good company.
That's a very good company. I was honored for her to bring that up. And compared to them, we're a boutique firm with 2,500 people. By no means are we a boutique firm, but comparison wise, you know where we sit. So I said, you know, you bring that up because you probably spent millions of dollars with them and ended up with a roadmap that looks like the New York City phone book, and got told, patted on the back, and got told good luck. She goes, well, I can't confirm nor deny that. And I said, well, and I went straight into my next line was, well, how long did they tell you it's going to take for your transformation? And she said 5 quarters. What she didn't realize is she just answered my first question. So I said, who's quarterback? And she said, the business owners.
Good luck with that.
And I said, so what you're telling me, and forgive me, I'm just going to be as candid and transparent with you. Customer care is going to do theirs, and they're probably going to hire a Salesforce developer. And field service is going to
Salesforce.com?
What's that?
When you said Salesforce developer, did you mean Salesforce.com, or did you mean someone who manages a Salesforce?
On one of their integrators, one of their, consultants that integrate Salesforce and helps them get even better, not Salesforce.com.
Okay.
And a consultant in that arena, because, and I was just making this up, you're probably going to get field service implementing a new workforce management tool. You're going to get warehouse and logistics hiring an SAP consultant, or a WFM, a warehouse management, a WMS, excuse me, a warehouse management system, a transportation management system, or an ERP management system. You're going to get manufacturing talking to an ERP person. And they're actually in 5 quarters, let alone 2 quarters, since no one person is going to be quarterbacking this, they're going to be farther apart in 5 quarters than they were when we started this. She goes, honestly, Donavan, I didn't think about it that way. And so to your point about everything being paper-based in a decade, it's not just the paper, it's the processes, it's the procedures, and it's actually, there's, people talk about data being the new oil. I disagree. Data is more valuable than that. Data is water, and most companies are either dying of thirst or they're drowning.
Nice. Joey approves of your analogy.
Thank you. So, but to move on to the next slide.
There is no slide now because I robbed you of slide privilege.
All right, let me reshare.
Yes, please.
So we like to start with customer experience because honestly, your competitor is now a Google click away. And if companies are not, I like to say to focus on the 4 C's. It's cost avoidance, cost reduction, cost elimination, and improved customer experience. And CX is the most important. And these are not my stats. Actually, some of these stats are coming from the great analysts of the world, Forrester, Gartner, and even from an article from McKinsey.
You might footnote that on your slide in the future.
I should. Thank you.
You're
Do
welcome.
that. And because I will. I'll put an asterisk down at the bottom. I should have. Because these aren't things I made up. These are actually where we got this information from. And it's all, you can see in bold, the 20% uplift in customer satisfaction, 10 to 20% improvement in employee satisfaction, and economic gains ranging from 20 to 50%. But the huge thing is it's cheaper to keep them.
Mhm.
I know a buddy of mine who he's coined the phrase cheaper to keeper. And I'm sure you've all heard that in the marriage world. But
Tell me,
really,
oh, okay, here we go. I was wondering, the concepts you're sharing, you can go to the next slide. I'm wondering, uh, do you find that this is equally true in product and service companies? And what is the split of your business between companies that are primarily service versus product?
so I believe that the majority of the companies, so I would say we have a 70-30 or even 80-20.
Okay,
And when you say
favoring
product,
service.
yeah, well, service, but they make a product and then they have to service it.
Okay,
There's about 20 or 30% of our companies that we work with that they don't make a tangible product, but they do sell a product. It's just might be software, it might be it might be a website, it might be something around that. But that's where the lines are blurred, in my opinion, that everybody is now making a product. And even if it's a service, a lot of people are productizing that. You can disagree with me, Joe.
I
know you
will if I find reason to.
All right. So, and the reason why I put this slide in, to go back to what I was talking about, is most companies, they've got customer care. They've got the way that they do this. This is one thing that scares the hell out of me, is when people I'm talking to, when I hear the phrase, "This is the way we've always done it." If that comes out of somebody's mouth, if they're not open for a conversation, I'm in the wrong room, because they're already retired. And to your point earlier about in the next decade, everything paper has to go away. It's got to be digitized. If anybody says this is the way we've always done it, they're not looking at implementing. They're not even thinking about strategy and design around CX. And they most certainly aren't thinking about optimization and internal facing, internal procedures, process, and optimization is always going to impact external. So as we get to the piece about how digital and analytics can impact manufacturing, sales, and service, let's go ahead and look at the way that we've looked at most companies in their current state today within manufacturing. They forecast demand, source supply, schedule manufacturing, schedule maintenance, produce goods, store goods, deliver goods. And Joe, I know you like a good conversation. A lot of companies in the heavy duty manufacturing space, so that they can improve their customer experience, are running their MRP daily. That means that they can change the BOM on their manufacturing supply chain, manufacturing floor at any given time. But what doesn't happen, what people don't take into consideration when doing that, is they are looking at, they're not truly being a partner to their suppliers. They're telling their supplier, okay, push that out 2 weeks. The very next day when the MRP runs, they're telling their supplier, no, we need it overnighted. And then they turn around and the MRP runs again, and they push it out for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and the stuff is there. Now warehouse has to figure out a place to put it, and now they shelve it, but nobody is responsible for utilizing that product. And now that product can sit there for 6 months, be taxed when inventory rolls around, and nobody's held liable for that. Supplier. We were talking to a manufacturer where a supplier here in the US, when COVID hit, they said, we don't have an issue. We only source United States. Well, come to find out, their supplier. When we analyzed their supply chain, was in Wuhan. And I'm not making this stuff up. And we had to come back to them and said, you don't know it yet, but your supply chain is broken. And so that comes to the data speaking to you, but not just an overwhelming amount of data. Right now, they're dying of thirst because they don't have the information. They're trying to get the information, and instead of coming back to them and pouring over everything of all of their suppliers, we pulled out the most relevant bit of data and we showed them that, yes, your supply chain is broken, this piece of it. And so it's not just showing you the data, it's actually showing you the relevant and most important data. So that's why we try to move this over to outcome-driven manufacturing, where your aligns objectives to integrate decision-making, measures the business impact, prioritizes actions, improves lead time reliability, predicts shapes demand, and optimizes asset maintenance strategy. So we're working across profits and margins, market share, return on net assets, working capital, revenue at risk, and inventory obsolescence. It's really,
Donovan,
yes, sir.
I'm smart enough to recognize the stuff in green is better than the stuff in gray. You
Perfect.
laid it out that way, and those words look nicer than the other words, but it's all a lot of words to me. Can you help me visualize?
So
this is another, I'm going to say, do you have anything among the pages that you didn't plan to share where I could see something that is the way I used to do it? I would get this information, and the way I will do it, I'll get this information, and I can clearly see, oh my God, yeah, that's really valuable. Because right now.
So let's jump right to here. You know what? I'm going to go back a slide. Because whether you're working in manufacturing, whether you're working within sales or service, everybody is working within silos. All the data is within silos. And so integrating the data islands, building data into trust, and this can be as small as what I said, looking at what the MRP is doing, looking at your supplier. So no, Joe, I don't have a slide that says, hey, this is what you used to do, this is what you need to do. That was the gray and the green. But how to do it is what I'm going to talk about next, if you're all right with that.
Please.
So the data islands and data laking and getting down into the foundation. I had data engineering because everybody has data scientists, business analysts, data analysts. But if you don't have the foundation, the data to begin with from all your different sources to look at, and that's where data engineering comes in so importantly. It's the foundation of the house. Our VP of digital explained it to me this one time. He said, Donovan, used to be companies, if you look at the foundation of the house and the plumbing, water used to come in from one main line, and you used it in the shower for one reason, you used it in the water closet for another reason, you used it in the sink for another reason, used it in the sink in the bathroom and the sink in the kitchen for different reasons. Now data's coming in, but in the kitchen, they want water out of that same faucet as they want hot chocolate in the evening. They want coffee in the morning. They want, milk in the afternoon. There is so many things that they need, that not that they want, but they need coming out of that same pipe. And so integrating the data islands is the number one thing building the data into trust. And this is where people get lost. And this is what I was talking to that Fortune 50 company. Converting data into insights and then operationalizing the insights and delivering an outcome. Most companies, when they get involved, like the one that I was talking about, they're doing a 5-quarter roadmap. They're doing a 3-quarter roadmap. You don't know that you've stumbled and skinned your knee until you've gotten to the 3rd or 5th quarter. Things have completely changed. COVID happened. You think anybody knew their supply chain was going to be as different as it is today in January of 2020? Nobody.
Oh, you had a question. It might help us get to where you need to go.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Hey, Donovan, I love the topic and the context in which you are speaking, but I'm having a difficulty locating where you're going to go with this. And I come from 20 years of selling business intelligence in the old days of Hyperion and Cognos. I'm dating myself. And Business Objects was a new company. But anyway, what you're saying is absolutely on target. Companies have to think this way, and I really want to emphasize that. But my question is, Innover, is it a consulting company that educates the world and charges for that? Or do you have your own tech stack that you're selling and replacing technology? Or are you going into these large organizations and saying, we'll help you both as a systems integrator and say, we'll help you with the process, we'll help you think through it, we'll help you leverage the tech investments you've already made and maybe add a few more. I'm curious about how you go about doing this.
And thank you for that, Paul, because this is that slide. So we are number 3. Companies already have their own tech stack.
Got it.
A lot of them already have their own roadmap. Like the Fortune 50 company that consulted with BCG and McKinsey. They were given their own roadmap, and we had to take that and actually operationalize that. Help them by taking their data, building in trust layer, and doing this stack right here. This is how, and we productized it and called it LEAP, leveraging and enabling analytics and processes. So we actually operationalize all of what the clients want to execute. These are actually our pre-built models.
Okay.
May I ask then, would you say that, so they have their own data stacks. Are you guys gifted in distilling data into information, and after an engagement with you, I'll finally have 3 to 5 go-to reports that help me run my business with clarity I previously lacked? Is that your value prop?
Yes, 100%.
So let me paraphrase again to make it even simpler and dumber for me. Before Innover, I had a lot of data I didn't know what to do with. After Innover, they came in and they made 5 reports on which my company now relies.
Yeah, sure. We could go there.
And Tim, if you, I'm gonna bring your best friend, buddy, boss on and see if he comes up with the same answer. Carol's already packed up and he's leaving Texas, I think.
Well, and while you're grappling with that question, I want to go beyond what Joe's asking, because that's really a simplified approach, right? And you're struggling like, oh, we do so much more. But the so much more is because are you a digital transformation company or you're an analytics company? Are you going into robotic automation? Are you?
And so we actually have a lot of partners, and yes, we're a full transformation company. As I said when I was first talking with, I'm not a big fan of digital transformation. It's been thrown around way too much. But yeah, that's where our fix, optimize, evolve comes into play. We do introduce RPA, but actually here towards the end of the year or the first of next year, our RPA partner and us are going to be doing another webinar that we're hosting ourselves that talks about why RPA fails, because people want to boil the ocean.
RPA?
Robotic process automation, bots.
Okay.
Hybrid workforce, really. I'll tell you, I'll just give you an example. We implemented a bot and a whole pool of admins. Every time a quote came in, they had to adjust a Excel spreadsheet, and that's the format they worked within. And it took them 8 minutes roughly, if they were good at it, to readjust the Excel spreadsheet and the formats in order to integrate it. It was actually a CSV file to integrate it into their system, to send it into their system so the data all matched. We put a bot in place that did that in 15 seconds.
Okay, so you made a macro for us simpletons.
Exactly. And so what, instead of replacing the workforce with bots, where most bots fail, so that's where we're a service integration company, a services company, and a data analytics company. So it's a bigger focus. What I wanted to focus on is, and I appreciate Paul and Joe, your thoughts and questions, but to get to what we do, I was taking it more of the mindset of what good looks like in manufacturing and how data analytics, more than selling ourselves, so that people can
Absolutely.
take
Yes, please. And Paul, I'll put you back in the gallery. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
So that people can take a look internally and go, what can we be doing differently? Let's take a step back and let's not boil the ocean.
Right.
Let's take a look at this. And that's where I was going with the gray and green slide, and instead of going into what we sell.
Fair enough. Please continue.
So no, we've gotten to the point where I can take a step back and look at the silos if it helps people, or we can start talking about some of the case studies in which we've helped people.
I'd like that.
All right, let's go straight to the case studies then. This is why I love your format, your platform. Let's go into, so with this company, and I spoke about it earlier, where they had, no, I didn't speak about it earlier. I spoke about it on a previous call. This company we went into, and they had 4 different ERPs, one of them homegrown, 3 different CRMs, one of them homegrown, 3 different workforce management, one of them homegrown. But the number one problem they had was unproductive dispatches, failed dispatches. And so when we spoke to them, they said, well, we can get you the data in 3.5 to 4 weeks.
Okay,
And
so let me, if you don't mind, because again, I'm trying to really, this company is in the business of connectivity, and customers, people like me here, a residential customer would say, my internet is down.
Yes.
So I might call Xfinity or customer care and be like, I have really slow. And you're saying that 30% of the times that they would have a truck roll into my driveway were unproductive. What were they? What was unproductive? They came in and they said, I can't tell you anything.
It's actually a failed dispatch. We need to reword that because you weren't there. The client wasn't there. They didn't have.
Well, they said they were coming between 8 and 5, and I can't sit here all day.
100%. 100%. They've narrowed.
So they were able to then say, we'll be there between 9 and 10. Can you be there then? Is that kind of where you're going?
It's not just that. It's also that the customer care did not get enough information from you. So it couldn't even be your problem. They didn't show up with the right with the right equipment. Or it was the wrong technician allocated to that job.
I understand that. Okay. So the concept was, when you're on the phone or live chat or whatever, engaging with the company, and you're engaging a customer to ask the right questions so that you can properly fix it. And they weren't asking the right questions reliably enough?
Yeah, and also wrapping the analytics around the historical information.
What does that
Nobody,
mean?
most of the stuff that goes in on a trouble ticket and goes into the CRM goes to die. Nobody wraps analytics around historical information that has led up to that customer today.
Paraphrasing. So I've had this issue 5 times. I never get good service here. And all you got was Joe said he's slow today and not seeing what other people have done in the past.
100%. And that's in a B2C environment. With a B2B environment, there's so many other factors that can play into it. But yeah, that's a great summation.
If I may, and this is just what I've done is I've made it like, so like, okay, I can relate to this. Beth called, the guy showed up, and I think versus the words and the chart that you have here, which is like, what am I looking at? Everyone can relate. So it is, I would advise you when you're giving these presentations, like if you're the guy whose connectivity always drops, you know how you, and go like that, and it's like, oh, I get it. So how did you fix that?
So, sorry, I'll go back to it. We wrapped our analytics around all the verbatim statements that they had in the CRM for each client. We wrapped our analytics around the data and the skill sets of each technician. And we wrapped our analytics around the current information. We built a model that every time a call came in and was entered, a trouble ticket was entered, our analytics had a model built that said, looked at these 9 or 12 things and measured each one of those and scored them.
Okay, I get that. So again, paraphrasing, I took a qualitative field, an open field of what I typed in, and put a model around it to be able to pretty much divine what are we really talking about, so that it spits out one of 9 answers or fractions of answers, so that you can get a sense by looking at it without reading all of the history. Am I right?
Yes.
Tim, I'm available for hire if you, go ahead. Just as a teammate, not to replace him, just to, you know.
And same thing around the probability based route planning systems. With this company, this was a logistics company, but we've also done this for service companies with field service, courier networks to meet the technicians with the part. And they just, once again, it boils down to relevant data, visibility. And I say relevant data because, once again, you could get an avalanche of data. You could get a waterfall of data that you're drowning in.
Is this concept of taking qualitative data and streaming it into measurable fields that people can relate to?
Yes.
One of the main concepts that you bring?
That's LEAP. That's leveraging and enabling analytics and processes. Yes.
I think we need a new acronym that is the first letter of everything I just said instead. Okay. So that's one concept. We take fields and we make it something that I get it. What is another concept for the types of value that you can bring from otherwise a flood of data? Do you follow my question?
No.
I'm oversimplifying, but what I just said is a one-trick pony. Oh, I can take all this data, all these words, and I can spit out something that gives you the 9 things. That's a concept. Do you have other concepts that would be something I would expect from an engagement with you?
So that's, I can go straight into this. I'm not just going to force you to use our visibility tool. People are using Tableau, they're using Power BI, they're using Azure. They're using, once again, we're using their tech stack. So no, we are not a one-trick pony that I'm going to just do analytics and I'm going to give you relevant visibility. We're going in, we're helping them get their data because most companies don't even know where to get their data at.
Mhm.
We're building the APIs. We can even build the web portals because most
Mhm.
companies don't have that.
Mhm.
We can look at the digital experience. We actually just spoke at the Adobe Summit on this. We can build the digital experience so it's impactful. You're not building it in a vacuum and it's actually relevant to your clients. We're wrapping the analytics around it. And then a lot of companies, once you give them this data, they don't have the resources to actually action upon the data in real time. Like, I'll go back to that telecom company. They hired enough people to push through the tickets. Now that we built the model and said, hey, this one's going to fail, this one's going to fail. And when you've got 10,000 tickets a day across the United States and 30% of them fail, that's 3,000 that you need to look at, and you need to move to a window that's not going to fail. Who's going to action upon that? They typically don't have the employees to be able to do that. And that's where our business services come in.
Okay. So if I were to, again, I've emphasized a number of times how simple I am and how, blessed with as many friends as I have and value propositions that they offer. Could I say, oh, you have a lot of data that you need to make sense of, you should call Donavan?
100%.
Is that your value prop?
That's one of my value props.
What's another?
That we work across any system, platform, tool, or cloud. And so
I'm in the same place. That's a lot of data.
Yeah, but you also, here's the thing, systems need to talk to each other. And a lot of times when people are hiring visibility companies or data analytics companies, they're not understanding the systems or the tools that that client is using. So they're having to burn a lot of cycles with that client for them to explain what tools they're using and why they're using them.
Are you saying that when somebody has a problem and they start searching for a new vendor, they do so in somewhat of a vacuum, not understanding how that's going to work with their present data stack?
Yes.
And then the company they hire, who's just too happy to take their money, spends a lot of time saying, this is your data stack, and now we found that you really can't this, and we're going to have to that and that and that.
Yes.
So would we be wise to hire you for an engagement to say, can we look at what your data is so that I can give you an assessment of how to get where you want to go?
Well, 100%. So I'll give you an example, and I know we're coming up on time, but with we had a service parts planning tool company that multi-billion-dollar Fortune 500 said, we want to integrate this service parts planning tool with SAP. It's already, the information's flowing through an FTP. And we got on the phone with them as the system integrator. We were going to integrate the service parts planning tool with SAP. And they said, okay, how much is it going to cost? And we said, the number one thing is we started going through the things, and they said, well, wait a second. We're on SAP ECC, but in 9 to 10 months, we're going to be moving to S4HANA. And we immediately said, time out. Do you need this more robust? Are you happy with it? Do you just want to move because it's faster and more secure? And they said, yes. We said, then we'll engage in 9 to 10 months. And they said, no, why? And we said, because we're going to bill you probably 80 to 100 grand to data lake this, do all this
Something that will be
integration.
obsolete in 9 months.
And nothing is transferable to S4HANA. Nothing is transferable. And so they said, we have spoken with 3 other integrators who never brought that up to us.
Sure, because it was an easy $80,000 to $100,000.
Yeah. And if they didn't, and they would need them again in 9 to 10 months. And so being just a data analytics company or just being a system integrator company, that's where we're bringing it together.
Mm-hmm. So even more broadly, if you have a question about your data, call me.
Yeah.
Okay, I can handle that. for our friends on the phone, just what I did there is it's the basics for positioning. It's just if then, if you blank, 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 then blank, blank, blank. And yeah, I mean, I get that. And yes, there are a lot of intimidating looking logos on here, and I wouldn't know where to start. So I'd want to say, I know a guy. I know a
And this
guy.
is why I so appreciate your platform and your insight, Joe, and everybody else on here, because I just appreciate it.
I appreciate being appreciated.
All right.
Is this slide 10, or was there something else you wanted to share today?
No, nothing today. I think we've talked this out.
Okay. Let me ask the group who's still on. Do you have any present data issues? And maybe we can brainstorm something now, or you certainly know how to get in touch with Donavan because he's an active member of Premium. And in the meanwhile, I'm going to take a quick look and see who we have coming up. Oh, next week, a friend of mine, Steve Anderson, he's spoken at 10X twice, and he actually is Andreas's boss. Andreas Stiebel is a member of Premium. His boss is Steve, and they've been working on a pediatric device for many years, and the challenge is to commercialize it. And I think that'll be a real insight for folks. So that's what we'll do next week. In the meanwhile, we have here in America a 4-day weekend, a 3-day weekend, Labor Day. I don't know how many of you plan to labor anyhow. I probably will. But if you don't, then enjoy your next day with your families. Donavan, what have you got planned for the weekend?
Really just relaxing and setting up for a garage sale that my HOA is hosting next weekend.
What are you putting in the garage sale?
Wife's old desk, some stuff out of the garage.
But that guitar on your wall is staying right where it is.
That stays, that bass stays right where it's at. So
Jan writes, she finds companies don't know how to integrate their packaging data properly to analyze what they need to optimize, reduce damage, ship and store easier, and many things like that.
100%.
So how, I don't imagine, I mean, Jan is an independent. As a packaging engineer for hire, it wouldn't be economically viable to work with her, I imagine. So would it be someone at a large company that actually has packaging engineers that goes and gets approval from her boss and say, we need to be looking at our data and help me understand how, it would be a hard sell, I would think.
No, actually, we've worked in, especially in the semiconductor world, not so much in the med device world, but in the semiconductor world, we have worked with the packaging engineers because of the impact that goes on with the damaged product, all the historical information, the field service information, the customer care information, the warehouse information. We're bringing all of that data together. So Jan, that's a great call out.
Well, and it's not just that. I mean, they have damage that's I find like what they're doing in incoming receiving affects production, which affects shipping, which affects what the customers are actually receiving. And they don't know how to integrate that in, so you can see that one is bothering another. And besides the optimizing, figuring out where your suppliers are getting their materials and how that can affect you and all that kind of stuff. It gets weird.
How much of your work, Jan, is medical device?
I'd say 90%.
Okay, because Donavan, if I'm not mistaken, one of the reasons you joined Premium is because Innover is looking to increase its exposure to this category.
Yeah, we've got
you guys do lots of things.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. 100%.
So Jan, if you have any clients who would benefit from this kind of work, you know a guy now too.
Yeah.
And Jan, I'd love to talk to you because I know 90% of your stuff is med device, but I got to tell you, in the semiconductor world, I know quite a few packaging engineers that could probably utilize your help also. And when I say semiconductor, these are the companies that make the equipment that make the wafers. So they're
Yeah, and
making
I
the
work for
lasers.
companies that actually use the wafers sometimes in medical devices, and that gets fun trying to make the packaging work properly.
Yep.
Listen, I've got another meeting, so I got to run.
Yes, and I will conclude quickly with, yes, friends, go make business together. Beautiful business babies.
Yes.
Have
Thank
a
you
good weekend,
again, Joe.
everyone. Nice long weekend, Donovan. Thank you for today's presentation.
Cheers.
Signing off. See you next week. Bye.